An in-season 49ers trade for Pro Bowl safety Jessie Bates. If you like the sound of that, I'm sure that Raheem Morris does too. A lot of drama on social media regarding Ji'Ayir Brown in the 49ers safety position right now. And I wrote my 53-man roster projection 1.0 for the 49ers. A Bates trade is actually something that I did predict. More on that in a bit. First, why don't we check in with the 49ers themselves? Good attendance at the voluntary portion of the offseason program, from Pearsall to Greenlaw to Warner to Demarcus Robinson. How about a little Mike Evans as well, catching the deep pass? 49ers put up this video, and they are working hard. Again, this portion of the offseason program is fully voluntary, yet we are seeing a lot of the big names at work for the 49ers, including Mr. Brock Purdy himself. Sebastian Valdez, the Hulk, right after Purdy. There's Ji'Ayir Brown, speaking of the safety. Mike Evans, Mac Jones, Dominic Pooney, Christian McCaffrey. You name the player, he's likely there for the 49ers this offseason. Plus, they already have the Trent Williams contract situation resolved. So the 49ers are going to get to work at OTAs here in a couple weeks. We expect essentially everyone to be there. We don't expect Brandon Ayuk to be there. Talked about him a little bit last night, but I discussed all of this in the 53-man roster projection. The full NFL schedule release is tomorrow. So we only have a couple games of the 49ers slate so far. Obviously, the opener against the Rams in Australia. And now we know the Mexico City game. It's going to be November 22nd, right ahead of Thanksgiving. Not against the Dolphins. That had been incorrectly reported. It's going to be against JAuan Jennings and the Minnesota Vikings. They call it Estadio Banorte now. It's got a sponsorship now, kind of like Candlestick Park turned into 3Com Park. Well, now Estadio Azteca has turned into Estadio Banorte. The newly renovated stadium in Mexico City will host the 49ers and the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, November 22nd. We all remember one of Brock Purdy's early lowlights. Well, this is when he was trying to fake a handoff to Jordan Mason during the Mexico City game in 2022. Funny enough, Mason is now a member of the Minnesota Vikings, so he'll be returning to Mexico City to play against the 49ers. And I think that Brock Purdy now fakes his handoffs, runs all those play actions in the correct direction. Vikings, JAuan Jennings, JJ, Justin Jefferson, JJ, and maybe even JJ McCarthy, JJ. But we expect Kyler Murray to start for them. But this game is far, far in the future on November 22nd. That is still over half a year away. In fact, in 2022, when the 49ers played the Cardinals and beat the Cardinals bad 38-10 in Mexico City, Kyler Murray was rehabbing from an ACL tear. Kyler was on the 49ers opponent back then as well. Full schedule release tomorrow. We'll get much more into how the 49ers have to navigate the globe. They've got over 38,000 miles on their docket, which is the most in NFL history. There are a handful of teams in the NFL who actually have less travel miles this entire season. The 49ers will have flying to Australia and back. The Carolina Panthers at the bottom of that travel list. Just the way that it works for West Coast teams, especially ones that are asked to go all the way to Australia and enter a time machine. The 49ers will lose an entire day flying to Australia, but they will land sooner on the clock than they took off by about 4 hours when they return from the land down under. You know, speaking of 2022, last time the 49ers played in Mexico City, that was also the last season the 49ers had a top 5 defense. Ever since then, the defense has eroded for the 49ers, starting with the run defense in 2023 to everything really cratering in 2024 at the end of the season, to a rebuilding year in 2025, now to 2026, where the 49ers can say that their defensive line is nearly completely redone over the course of the past 14 months. It needed to be redone because, again, they finished 2025 with a league low 20 sacks. And I think that really, really hurt the 49ers' safety play. Now, we see on social media Dante Whitner going after Ji'Ayir Brown, and then supposedly Ji'Ayir Brown called Dante Whitner, and then Dante Whitner took that conversation back to the internet, which a lot of people disagree with. And, I think that the larger picture here is that the 49ers didn't have a pass rush last year. And if you look at safety metrics, Ji'Ayir Brown covered okay. Malik Mustafa covered okay. The tackling was bad. That has to get better for the safeties. And I think that it's a domino effect because everything is connected in football. If the pass rush is better, the safeties should be better. Whitner himself benefited from a really good 49ers pass rush after he came over from Buffalo during the Jim Harbaugh era when San Francisco truly, truly put the hurt on opposing quarterbacks. But I want to look bigger than that at the safety position because I think that Raheem Morris has truly grand ambitions for this defense. He's talked so much about multiplicity on the back end. We've seen the 49ers draft Jaden Duggar, somebody who's got longer arms than Aldon Smith, who's played safety, but whom they envision as a linebacker. But he thinks that linebacker position will allow him to play all of the above, which indicates that the 49ers are going to be moving him around a little bit. Raheem Morris has a history of moving guys around. We talk about somebody like Jalen Walker with the Atlanta Falcons, drafted there under the final year of the Raheem Morris regime. And then we can also talk about Jessie Bates, a player that he inherited. And you can discuss safety versatility. You can discuss safety smarts. You can discuss safety communication. And when you realize that Raheem Morris was a safety himself at Hofstra, when you realize that his football upbringing came in that position, working with that position. I mean, he was in the DB room with John Lynch when John was a player back in the early 2000s in Tampa Bay. Raheem Morris was an assistant DB coach. You'd think that Raheem may want to have his own guy in the room. Now, I don't think that the Falcons necessarily are in a rush to give Jessie Bates up, but that's why I talk about a potential in-season trade. Because still right now on this 49ers roster, I only see 3 true natural safeties projected to make this 53-man roster. One of them is Ji'Ayir Brown, an average player so far at best. Another one is Malik Mustafa. He's got to reestablish himself after that ACL tear to close the 2024 season. And the third one is Marquise Siegel, somebody who showed promise tackling-wise, is the best tackler by far, the only tackler with a missed tackle rate under 10% for the 49ers in that safety position last year, but someone who really, really struggled in coverage. The 49ers have typically carried 4 safeties, and considering the fact that the safety is that key silent communicator for the defensive coordinator, this can make a whole lot of sense.